What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that actually hasn't released yet, but my AMC near me was doing an early release screening, and I was really excited to check this movie out for a couple of reasons. For starters, the directors that worked on this movie have done two films that I actually really enjoyed. One was called Villains, starring Micah Monroe and Bill Skarsgård, which was very subversive, funny, darkly comedic, and I really appreciated it a lot. And then another movie, also starring Micah Monroe, called Significant Other, that was like a horror science fiction thriller that I also was very impressed with. And so I knew these directors were capable of good work. And this movie in particular stars Jack Quaid, who I really like a lot. I always enjoy Jack Quaid whenever he shows up in anything. I saw him on Red Letter Media a while ago too, and he just seems like a really genuine guy. I really like everything about Jack Quaid. And so I was looking forward to this. I've seen the trailer a few times. It looked like something that would be wildly entertaining and just a fun time overall at the movies. And that was exactly what I was hoping for. And the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is Novocaine. Novocaine is directed by Dan Berk and Robert Olsen. When the girl of his dreams is kidnapped, everyman Nate turns his inability to feel pain into an unexpected strength in his fight to get her back. So I was really excited to watch this movie. I was very much hoping that this would be something that I would enjoy. And this is a wildly entertaining time at the movies. And I was honestly kind of surprised because I had a feeling I knew where this was going to go. It does hit a lot of familiar beats, but it also surprisingly has a very authentic emotional core that I wasn't really expecting when I saw the trailer to the movie. And it's still very violent. It's over the top comedically. It does have a couple of problems, but I think that all the problems that the movie does have are overshadowed by just how overwhelmingly enjoyable of an experience that this movie is. And I'm excited to tell you a little bit about it today. So, at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Nathan Caine, played by Jack Quaid, who is just your everyday guy. He goes to work at his job as assistant manager at a bank, and he stays at home and plays video games, and he doesn't really go out very often. And we learn the reason for that is he has a genetic condition which causes him to not be able to feel pain, and he's also not able to feel hot and cold. And because of that, he has to limit what types of food he can eat. And his parents, when he was young, just really kept him in the house and didn't let him go do anything because they were afraid he would die. And so he lives his life in a relatively safe and comfortable way. But at work, he works alongside Sherry, played by Amber Midthunder, who works as a teller at the front desk of the bank. And he is clearly interested in her, but afraid to approach her. She constantly tries to have casual conversation with him, and he doesn't really engage, sort of in fear that he will be mistreated by her or that she'll think he's a joke because of his genetic condition. And eventually he caves to go on a date with her, and surprisingly, the two of them have an immense amount of chemistry, and their chemistry forms because they share trauma. Both of them have gone through very traumatic experiences in their life when it comes to one's ability to not feel pain, but having emotional pain attached to that, not being able to feel real physical pain, and then the other one experiencing trauma in which she self-harmed. The two of them bond because of that shared experience, and they share a wonderful time together. And they go to work the next day, and Nate is just through the roof about the date that they went on, and these men come through the front of the bank in these Santa Claus costumes, and they pull out guns and they hold up the bank. Well, after they steal the money from the bank, they end up taking Sherry hostage, and Nate is not okay with that. And despite being really quiet and reserved, this is the greatest thing that has ever happened to him in his life, and he'll do anything to get her back so that he can continue to feel whatever this is. And the entirety of the movie is Nate going after this group of criminals to try to save Sherry. So like I said, this movie, wildly entertaining, and I did not expect it to be as great as it was, but I had a smile on my face through the whole hour and 50-minute runtime of this movie, and there are multiple reasons for that. Number one, the performances in this movie are really fantastic, and that starts with Jack Quaid. I loved Jack Quaid's performance. I think he does the perfect kind of everyman role, but he also provides a lot of genuine comedic levity in this. And there are so many moments that between the bodily comedy, his reaction to certain situations, kind of like overplaying when people are trying to cause him pain and him like trying to act like he can feel something. It was just wildly entertaining to see how he would play in a specific scene. And there's a lot of bodily comedy in this, obviously, and there's a lot of disgusting, really visceral, gross violence associated with some of those moments. And I think Jack Quaid plays into it very well. He's just very believable. He's very likable. He's charming and charismatic. And he kept me engaged to the screen the entire runtime of the movie. I can't commend him enough for his performance. The second best part of this movie is Amber Midthunder. She gives an excellent performance in this movie. She starts off, she's the love interest of the film, and she is immediately likable. She is charming, she's funny, and she really eats up the screen time. And I thought the chemistry between those two characters was really great and kind of the formulation of how you're going to feel about the remainder of the movie. And I was very impressed with like the first 15 minutes of this movie. I thought they did a really excellent job setting up this relationship, and the actors just continued to deliver as the movie went on. Everyone else in the movie does a really great job, but I was really blown away by those two lead performances. As far as the cinematography is concerned, I thought the visual presentation of this movie was really nice. In the action sequences, they do a really great job focusing on a lot of the heinous moments whenever they were like showcasing a brutal act of violence, which there are a lot of them. And our character, obviously, because he can't feel pain, he pushes through a lot of different things to try to find Sherry. And I really liked some of the absurdity. Some of the scenes are shown in the trailer, but there's a lot more in the movie that I appreciated. A lot of ridiculous absurdity. And the theater that I was in was incredibly crowded, and people's reaction, it was just a lot of fun to experience that in a group. Similarly to what I said about Companion earlier in the year, it was really fun to watch a movie that people had a very visceral reaction to a lot of like the gnarly, violent moments on screen. And that's something that I could appreciate. And I think that the visual presentation of the movie helps that a lot. Like if you cut away too quickly, it might not sit with audiences enough. And they really did take the time to kind of focus on the really disgusting, jarring things that our character was going through. There was also some really great musical choices in this movie as well. I was kind of surprised that in the first 20 minutes of the movie, there was a Chappell Roan and a Caroline Polachek needle drop like back to back, which I love both of those artists, so it was really cool to hear that back to back. But there's also great score throughout the movie that I think kind of keeps it amplified and on the edge of your seat. And this movie does stay very suspenseful and over the top through the majority of the runtime, which is what I like. I mean, it's an action movie. It's meant to entertain you, and I think that it does a very good job of that. But as I said at the beginning of the review, one of the things that I was really surprised by was the genuine emotional core that's established early on and then wrapped up really nicely in the third act, which is like people living their lives that share trauma in a very different way, coming together and being like, wow, like I don't have to live through this specific thing on my own. And I did not expect the movie to have that level of an emotional core. I thought that it would just be a silly, fun, kind of over the top ride, but there was that there, and I felt real, true, genuine emotion throughout it. And there are some cliches in this movie. I mean, it's an action film. There are plot beats that you can probably expect, and sure, there's some things that you're going to have to suspend your disbelief because they're kind of ridiculous. But I think if you push all that aside, one of the things that I always say when I review movies, and one of the things that I think lacks from a lot of film criticism anymore, is the understanding of intent. When I go into a movie, especially if I've seen a trailer, I try to see what the artist's intent is and did they execute the intent correctly. This movie and then something like a Best Picture winner like Anora, very different intent for both movies. I think the intent of this movie is to create a fun, visceral experience with ridiculous action, great comedy, and some fantastic performances, and it achieves that, which is why I enjoyed it so much. And I think if you go into this movie with the mindset of a fun, entertaining action movie that breezes by in an hour and 50 minutes, you're going to have a lot of fun with Novocaine. So have you seen Novocaine? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was wildly entertaining. I had a blast with it, and I'll be excited to revisit it in the future. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.